In all the cases involving
Decay, the legal system has decayed. That's a highly subjective point of view. The legal system is thriving as far as serving as a bulwark, perhaps, for the interests of Jewish Israel. So if you want to say that the legal system in Israel is decaying, then you have to point out why it's in Israel's best interest to accord the same rights to non-citizen Palestinians who hate them as you would to Jewish Israeli citizens.
misdeeds as diverse as stealing livestock and assault and arson, not a single suspect was charged with a crime. In one case, a settler shot a Palestinian in the stomach while an Israel Defense Forces soldier looked on. Yet the police questioned the shooter for only 20 minutes.
Right, because in times of vicious conflict, right, politics comes down to the friend-enemy distinction. The enemy is he who threatens the existence of your people. And Palestinians, as embodied by the Hamas attack of October 7, threaten the existence and prosperity and safety of the Jewish state. And so when the enemy threatens the existence of your people, all right, politics has become brutally important, far more important than playing by the rules. Right? Any people that puts a higher priority on playing by the rules as opposed to surviving and thriving is not going to survive and it's not going to thrive.
And never as a criminal suspect, according to an internal Israeli military memo. During our review of the cases, we listened to recordings of Israeli.
So American presidents can kill non-citizens. Right? American presidents can go out and launch military raids and kill non-Americans. Barack Obama, the drone warrior, killed thousands of non-Americans. He even killed some American citizens who were acting against America, who were living in Afghanistan, right? So this is how the world works, right? Nations will go out and kill non-citizens if they see that as being in their best interests.
Human rights activists calling the police to report various crimes against Palestinians. In some of the
such an absurd group, human rights activists, right? Until the 1970s, there was no notion that human rights transcended the nation state. We've traditionally understood human rights as something that a state affords its citizens. And then this brand new notion by disillusioned Marxists beginning in the 1970s who wanted some kind of political project that they could throw themselves into, given that the conventional political project of pushing for socialism had proven to be such a disappointment. They came up with this notion that there are universal human rights bestowed by whom? But they go out there fighting for human rights, don't do any good, but they get to feel good. They get to feel moral. They get to have purpose, right? They get to have a mission. But there's no meaningful human right that is not enforced by a nation state for its citizens.
recordings, the police refused to come to the scene, claiming they didn't know where the villages were.
Well, why didn't English police come to the scene, or French police, or Chinese police, or Japanese police, or Australian police come to the scene? Because police don't look out for the interests of non-citizens, right? Particularly when this kind of violence is occurring in occupied territory.
In one case, they mocked the activists as anarchists. A spokesman for the
Yeah, if you are primarily interested in the survival and thriving of the Jewish people and the Jewish state, you will mock human rights activists. It's eminently mockable because there's no commonsensical conception of human rights that is not based in the nation state and the nation state's relationship to its citizens.
Israeli National Police declined to respond to repeated queries about our findings. The violence and impunity that these cases demonstrate existed long before October 7th. In nearly every month before October, the rate of violent incidents was higher than during the same month in the previous year. And Yesh Din,
Yeah, so people have in-group identities, but then events happen like October 7th, which trigger an intensification of your in-group identity. You will not grow in your in-group identity without simultaneously growing in contempt and negative feelings towards outgroups and an increased sense of your own victimization. October 7 happens, and Jewish settlers on the West Bank had an intensification of their in-group identity and an intensification of their loathing of their enemy, the Palestinians.
Israeli human rights group, looking at more than 1,600 cases of settler violence in the West Bank between 2005 and 2023, found that just 3% ended in a conviction. Ami Ayalon, the head of Shin Bet from 1996 to 2000, speaking out now because of his concern about Israel's systemic failure to enforce the law, says this singular...
Okay, so who do you think is going to sacrifice and be the most successful at organization and being effective at creating a state in its own image, right? Those who are primarily concerned about the enforcement of abstract principles and laws, or those who are primarily concerned with the survival and thriving of their particular people, right? Obviously, the nationalists, the tribalists, right? Those who have concrete commitments to a concrete people are going to be stronger, more impassioned, and more effective than those whose primary commitment is to abstract principles, right? People who are dedicated to their identity and to their interests will consistently win out against people who are primarily dedicated to ideology, policy, and abstract principles.
Lack of consequences reflects the indifference of the Israeli leadership going back years.